Well, greetings from Flight Quest. Good afternoon from Mountain Time Central or something. I'm on the East Coast and I'm in my simulator once again. I was thinking about the top 10 most difficult airports that pilots have available to them in the United States. And I thought, well, instead of the top 10, I'm going to do a series on the top 5 most difficult airports. And this isn't from me, this is just something I researched on the internet. I came across a few good sayings and a few good things, and so I'm going to start off this series with instrument procedures, VFR conditions, VFR landing, and I will use an RMI, and we will back that up with the VOR using the X-plane 1000, kind of like the Garmin 1000. So I don't know what makes the airports difficult. Could be mountainous terrain, could be traffic congestion, it could be visibility, it could be the length of the runway, it could just be anything for any pilot. I know I was still am a big fan of Chuck Yeager. He once said something, I believe maybe written in one of his books, The Right Stuff. A great read. And he said, stated by Chuck Yeager, Colonel Chuck Yeager, our late, great, I think he ended up being a general towards the end. So he said, if you can walk away from a landing, that's a good landing. He also continued, he said, if you could use the airplane the next day, it's an outstanding landing. So I'm going to be in the 172, the G1000. I kind of preliminarily set things up. Again, this is going to be an RMI, a relative magnetic indicator. I'll show you how I set that up in the Garmin. And maybe we'll get a little bit of value out of that. And we're also going to set up the VOR so we can every now and then go and check on our RMI just to see how far off course we are or how close to being on course we are. And you know, like I say, if it's going to be difficult, well, I'm going to make this one real difficult. So let me go ahead and get the airplane started up, and we'll get right to it. I usually have my yokes moved away there for a moment. Okay. Beacon goes on. Master goes on. I had to put my fuel pump on. Okay, there we are. So let's go ahead and get a start. Clear prop. And as you see in my simulator, we are actually parked inside of a hangar. So at this point, let's go ahead. Nav lights on. Let's get the rest of the batteries on. In here, let's get the secondary unit on. Looks like our temperature outside is going to be, survey says. Okay, we have to hit enter on this one to get that going. We are, let me bring up the PFD. Outside air temperature is 8 degrees centigrade. So that's what, about maybe 42. Let's pick up our AWOS.
Automated weather observation, Bert Mooney. Wind 230 degrees 13 knots. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions broken at 5,000. Overcast at 7,100. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 29904.
Well, it sounds like we do have a little bit of weather. We are in mountainous terrain. This is, I'm going to pull the approach plate up here just a moment.
Automated weather observation, Bert Mooney. Wind 230 degrees 13 knots. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions broken at 5,000. Overcast at 7,100. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 29904.
Come right here to my course and barrow toggled up, and let's go, what, 29904? I forget.
Automated weather observation, Bert Mooney. Wind 230 degrees 13 knots. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions broken at 5,000. Overcast at 7,100. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 29904.
29904. Set.
Automated weather observation. Bert Mooney. Wind 230 degrees 13 knots. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions broken at 5,000. Overcast at 7,000. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 2994.
Well, they don't say which runway they're using. I can go right into the map mode here, and let's look at the airport. Let's look at details. Shows they're using runway 30. Okay.
Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions broken at 5,000.
And that's 30 there.
Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 2948.
Heading bug's going to 300 per the prevailing winds. Still going to have a crosswind. Okay, the ball, or that's the bar goes left and the bar goes right.
Wind 230 degrees.
Attitude indicator stays stable.
More than 10 miles. Sky conditions
Vertical speed indicator shows 0. Airspeed showing 0.
7,000. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 2994.
And I'll switch over to Unicom frequency here. And you see the one in the green? That's the active frequency. Okay. Instead of doing the top 10, we're going to do the top 5. This is KBTM, Kilo, Bravo Tango, Mike. This is Bert Mooney Airport. I guess it's in Butte, Montana, or is that Butte, Montana? Butte? B-U-T-T-E. You know, I've seen the word, but I've never pronounced it. We'll call it Butte, Montana. Butte. So I think one of the difficult areas about this is the mountainous terrain surrounding this airport. There's no control tower here. We have multiple runways. We do have non-standard circling procedures. We do have left traffic and we do have right traffic. If we check the airport facility directory, we can check the chart, and it talks about there is no circle to land procedure northeast of the airport. And that's because of this mountain range right here for runway 15 and runway 33. So it looks like our winds are using 30, so we'll probably have a right downwind with that. So let's just do our run up real quick. Whatever it may be, 1700 RPM. Check our magnetos. $1660. Back up to 17. 1650. Both the same. Everything's in the green. Fuel flow is good. Looking good, looking good, looking good, looking good. Okie dokie. I'm going to get rid of that. And let's do our cliff check compass. 130. Well, I'm sorry, about 113 here. Compass. Circuit breakers. All in and check. Cowl flaps for ventilation. None on this one. Any clutter on the floor? Nope, everything looks pretty good. Communications, we are on Unicom frequency. We did check ASOS, and we have that. That's good. All right, next we'll be checking, compass lights are on. Beacon light, nav light, strobes, if needed, in there. And latches, doors are all set. Looking good. Seatbelts are latched and locked. Okay, compass lights, latches, seatbelts. Instruments, we let me pull the approach plate up because we're going to just do this all at the same time. This is Butte, Montana. We're doing the VOR Alpha. Bert Mooney, Bravo, Tango, Mike. We do have the ASOS in. We regarded that, took that information. Approach control is 132.4. That's installed into nav number 2. And the Unicom frequency is 123.0. Common traffic advisory frequency, there's a little L on that side of that. Looking in on this approach, a DME is required. We have a big note here. Okay, DME required. Circling, not approved, northeast of runway 15 and 33. Departing out of CPN, that's the Coopertown VOR. Here is the Bert Mooney Airport. We're going to take off from runway 33. I think we will actually do the DME arc on this. And what I do, I've already set it up into the secondary PFD over here, so we should be able to see that DME arc out there. So we do have DME in the G1000. We're going to depart on runway 30, and we're going to use the RMI. I'll set that up next. It's really easy, and we're going to track this 098 radial from Coopertown, and then once we cross over the station, or just prior to crossing the station, we will make a right turn, and then we will track the radial 027 outbound to the initial approach fix. We're not going to go out to the IF, but we will be going to the IAF. At that point, we'll make the left turn on the DME arc. Things are going to happen quite quickly. There's no procedure. It's 9,000 minimum altitude, and as the course comes in of 127 degrees inbound to the VOR, we will grab that. As we cross over the station, we have to remember, let's do the 5 T's, turn, time, twist, throttle, talk. We got to go to 098. We're going to have to take in the winds in consideration. We'll get to that. Next thing, we're going to be looking at the airport elevation is 5,551 feet. We're going to climb to 1,000, or flight level 10200. So that's 10,200 feet. Once we're established inbound, we descend down to 8,200 feet. Final approach fix, CPN. We may descend down. We're going to call it 7,200 feet with a 1.25 mile visibility, and we should be good. You can see the little arrow here comes in. We are not lined up with any runway. If we're using runway 30, we probably will make a right turn to enter a, looks like a left downwind for runway 30. We'll make that decision once we get down there. Any questions? I thought so. VOR DME 116.05. We'll need to identify those. Inbound course is 098. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove us from that. What we're going to do, we're going to set up for the RMI. So let's bring this big screen, bring this sucker back up so it's easier to see. And I'm going to go to PFD. What's the warning? Now it's a caution. Time reference. Let's take a look at our transponder. I'm going to put in a code here. 5 1 2 0. Okay, and let's go ahead and go transponder again, and let's go ahead and set that to altitude. And there we are. We're in the green. Local time is 1543. Let's look at our PFD. What I want to do is, I have VOR1 set up in here, but let's go to PFD, and I'm going to hit bearing 2. Nav 2, as you see, is set up to 116.05. It does have the green. That means that's being used for the second nav. And I want to get, this is going to be my RMI. Let me just toggle through this. There, it's off. Okay, that's the GPS mode. There's completely not even in use. And here you can see, let me move the bearing pointer out of the way. That's the green. That's the VOR one. And you see the blue, which is indicated here. This is going to be our RMI indicator. In other words, it's going to always point to the station. So this is the bearing to the station. This is the bearing from the station. And it's a relative magnetic indicator, so always pointing to the station. We just flew one of these for our DME. Well, we're going to use this to track outbound on all these radials from the VOR. So we're going to keep that in there. Now, as you see, so what is the bearing from the station with the RMI? The bearing from the station is approximately 100 degrees. Well, bearing 1 on the G1000 is right here. I can remove, let's see, hit that again. It gives me the information. It also puts another indicator up in here. Okay, but we're not going to be using that. And let's just see what the radial from the station is using the VOR. If I can get it to turn. It wants to be iffy. This will all make sense once we start flying. Again, this is pretty down and dirty. Alright. Just let me get the CDI centered. And we always say, well, this is like an HSI anyway, but if we want to see what the radial from the station is, let's go ahead and center our needle up here. And I guarantee you, it's going to center up about the same place right there, because the RMI indicator, 11.8 nautical miles from Charlie Papa November, nav number 2, is giving us the bearing from the station. I bet you it's going to start centering up. Now you go. So if you correlate that to the VOR, which everybody is familiar with, you can see the radial from the station is approximately 100. Let me pull our chart up again. There it is. So if we were 100 from the station, approximately, there it is, 098, you can see the radial from the VOR is southeast of the VOR, and it's right on the airport where we're at. If I take away the VOR, we have the RMI, which the head of the pointer is pointing to the station, but the tail of that pointer shows us the same thing as the VOR, the bearing from the station. We can kind of call it, I like to pretend it's like an NDB, you know, a non-directional beacon. Kind of what the RMI is, but only it's more of a nav aid than it is coming from a signal of a radio station. Can do two different things, but they give us the same information. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce this and take one more look at that. You can see that the VOR is in there. And obviously, if I move my VFR CDI off of the radial that we're actually located on the airport, you can see the CDI moved off. Okay, I'm going to go up here to nav number 1, and I'm going to transfer the frequency to the standby position if my mouse wants to cooperate. Now you notice that the CDI has it's gone. Well, let's go back to the black. There we go. Now we can see it. There's the airport. There's the VOR. And this is the ARC. There's the IF, and here's the IAF. So we're going to depart out of here, intercept the 098 going outbound, and then we'll get the 072 going outbound here to the instrument approach fix. Okay? And one more time with the chart. I'm just trying to knock this home. I'll refer to it. So there's the 027. So we're going to get a workout. We're going to track this outbound. We're going to have to take the winds into consideration going outbound. If I call this 100, add 180 to it, that's what, 280 degrees going outbound. So our heading is going to actually be about 280, and then we'll make our wind corrections from 280. Here, we're going to be going outbound away from the station, 027. We can call that 030 I mean, just for mathematical purposes, to make it easy and add or subtract 3 degrees and split the difference once we find our wind correction angle. Then we're going to fly that DME arc inbound. Then when we get approximately 5 degrees, we want to start to initiate our turn inbound, which is a heading of 127. And how do we know? So if the numbers are, that's the inbound course. So if we are going to turn prior to that, we have to, maybe about 5 degrees prior to 127. So about 120 degrees, we're going to start making that left turn to intercept the quarter, and then we'll descend down. We got to remember we have a heading change here and a course change, so we got a lot going on. Let's remember to do the 5 T's. Minimum safe altitude is 25, is flight level 10100 and flight level 120. And if you know what that means, in between these two headings, 10,100 feet, and then on the western and southern corridors, we're looking at 12,000 feet. Mean sea level. Our missed approach is a climbing right turn to 9,300 feet, going back to Coppertown CPN. All right, let's go. Brakes off. A very good YouTuber, Snail Mail 7, just did a nice video on the visual aspect of adjusting your height in the airplane. There's a couple ways to do it, and he's got a nice one. That way I can just HAT, do my hat button here, and bring it up. So, okay, this is the shorter runway. We said the winds are 230, so we do have a crosswind. And let's get a little side view action here to start off with. I don't need my top scene on. I'll get rid of that. You can see me recording. And there we go. Check your brakes. Brakes are off now. I'm a little bit squirrely, so 30 confirmed. Cleared for takeoff. Non-controlled airport. See, I'm squirrely already, so just hang in there with me. A little bit of a crosswind. Airspeed's alive. 40 knots. Green rings exploding. 51. Crosswind. Rotate. Positive rate. Relax on the rudder pedals. Turn into the wind. Crabbing. There's a mountain right up in front of us. I'm starting to see the danger. Power checks, power's full. Engines are in the green. I'll use that as my reference heading there for a crosswind. And let's reduce our pitch attitude so that we can increase our airspeed. Look at that, there's a mountain right in front of us. That's probably just a hill for them out here. Still, it's a little, we're going to start to make a little bit of a turn to the right. Give us a little cushion. Trying to get to about VY. I'm going to be hand flying this way. All right, I'm going to move the CDI pointer out of the way so we can get a better picture of this. We can always bring it back. Remember, we're using the blue indicator here as our RMI to track the 098 outbound. As you can see, the 089 we're pretty close to it, but this points to the station. If we did our missed approach, we would just put this right on the nose, fly it to the station. Get a little more airspeed here. Outside air temperature is now 6 degrees centigrade. Let's go ahead and identify our nav aids. Number 2. Since we are using that. And looking left. Everything looks pretty good. Alright, we're cleared the mountainous terrain. Next thing we're going to do is let's do a left turn. Directly to the station. We might have a beautiful sunset. There is the pointer right on there pointing directly to the station. We are 8.7 miles from the station here. So if we were to look at our chart again, we took off here. Now we're flying approximately on a heading of 270. Are we on the 098? Well, let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm going to put 098 on the tail of the airplane. And we'll go ahead and extinguish that. There is 098. We're about 094. That means we are a little bit right of course. Okay, so we're going to turn 20 degrees to the left. There's our heading at 265 from our current heading there. So that's 275, 265, 245. We're going to go ahead and roll wings level. Okay. So approximately 245. Now what is the difference between 45 and 285? That's about 40 degrees, isn't it? So if I look down here on the tail, 10, 20, 30, 40, that indicator should be moving. We should be dragging that in on this heading. Okay. We have a positive rate of 500. Okay. So now we're going to go back to our heading of 280. Just see what that did to us. This is an RMI indicator. There's our heading direct to the station. I'm going to roll wings level. We're about 285, and we notice we're right about 098. We're about 2 degrees off of that radial. Let's check out our VOR. Okay, here's another way to double check that. Since we're all familiar with thing, we're going outbound. Okay, HSI 285. So let me get back to there. Oops. As we get higher, this airplane gets a bit squirrely. Let's watch our DME. We're at 6. We need to get out to 7. And I'm going to put that frequency back in there. Okay, we're going to 1605. Notice the CDI is a little bit to the right. So we're not exactly on that. We were trying to get that 275. Let's go back to 285 here. 280, that's where we started. And you notice we are about 4 degrees to the left of the course. And we could see that over here if I hit that. Bring that up. See, we were just off course. But we're still going directly to the course. I put a course correction in there. $8,100 for, we have 10,200 in there. As you can see, we have a correction in here. See the course should be 0. There's 9. Oh, we got to be over a little bit more. We might be closer than we thought. Oops, 098. There we go. Oh, we are. See, we are. Let's go back to 285. I love it too. It tricks me up every now and then. Two 7, 28. Here's 285. Okay, that's where we were at. We've got a wind now coming from the left at 28 knots. As you notice, 285. Right there, we're on the CDI. So. Okay, I'm going to turn that frequency off now. We're about 3.7 nautical miles from the station, tracking to it. And when we looked at 098, the reciprocal of that was about, well, if we called it 100, add 80, about 280. Let's get back to 280. Let's move the CDI pointer out of the way so we can see that. There was 285. And now we have a little bit of a wind correction. And you see our bearing from the station is approximately 098. Well, we're about 10 degrees off here. Let me fix that real quick. You see it goes back there. Okay, there we go. We are on the well, we're actually on about the 10. We should be crossing the station here pretty soon. As we get closer, it becomes more sensitive. So let's see, let's get back to 285, 280. My hand off that in there, hand flying this sucker. Okay, landing lights off. Fuel pump is off. 1,000 to go. 280. I'm going to go ahead and lean the fuel out. That's good. We're still climbing. I'm leaving the power at fuel full. 270. Let's go back to 280. Let's just see where we're at. Station is a little bit to our left, but again, we are close. So I'm going to actually make a left turn a little bit more. 285. Let's go to 260. That'll just take out some of the off-courseness that we have going on. I'm running right at my best glide speed right now. I don't think the 172 is built to fly in these kind of altitudes in here, so. Notice the needle now is 10 degrees to the right of the nose. That's because we got a crab, but the needle stayed pointing at the station. Since we're very close, I'm going to go back to 280. And we're just trying to get up to flight level 10200. Come on, get me back to 280. We're 1.6 nautical miles away. Beautiful view. I left these two side views open here so that you can kind of see out the window. All right, 260. Choose our reciprocal of a 098, which is about, called it 100, so we called it about 280 on the outbound, but we're compensating for that crosswind, so I'm using about 10 degrees. We should have a 10-degree split. So we're 10 degrees off of the heading. The indicator is 10 degrees to the left. That means that we have our crosswind correction in there. But we are soon to cross the station at 1.1 nautical miles. And we have about 50 feet to go for altitude. I am so tempted to hit altitude control. There's 10,200 feet. So let's go ahead and level off. 0 rate of climb. Allow the airplane to accelerate. We're coming up on our turn also. The CDI is off there. So if we're doing about 100, divide that by 200, that gives us a half a mile. So we can start to do that turn now. And what did we say we want to turn to? .027. Let's call it a 030. So that's going to be a right turn. We're about a half a mile. Just a nice standard rate turn here. Outbound is 030. I'm pretty sure we got our flaps up. I don't know. I'm going to just double check here real quick. Forgot to put my flaps up. Hey, compass lights, instruments, flaps. 1,000, 10200. Okay, CDI is swung around. We are going outbound to 027 or 030. Let's keep that turn going in. I put my heading bug right up on there to give me a reference now. Okay, let's see where we're at. Let's just kind of hold on to this heading for a moment. We're going to follow this out to 7 DME. Let's reduce our power somewhat. Give us a little more time. Right around 2450, 2500. .027 on the heading bug. Let's go 027 on our heading. And let's see what the RMI tells us. We're 3.2 miles away. The course is approximately 20 degrees to our right-hand side. So let's do a turn. Let's make it 40 degrees, 27, 37, 47, 57, and let's go to 67. So we are 40 degrees difference from that outbound heading. So what are we going to wait for? The station is behind us. We're going outbound. We're waiting for this tail of the indicator, just like the CDI would center up to let us know when we're on the 027 radial outbound. And if you notice here, 10, 20, 25, the CDI is starting to come in. And when it drops on the 027, that means we are on that radial. And what we're going to do is turn outbound to 027. Now we're pretty close to the 7 DME. Our indicator came up there. We're going to go back to our heading now. Let's see where we're at with the 027. What we just did, we just intercepted it. So you take a look at the amount of degrees that you turn in the direction to intercept the bearing from the station, and then you wait for the pointer, the head or the tail, that when you do roll out on that the head or the tail will be in there. We're still off a little bit, but here comes 7 DME. Right now we're going to do another left-hand turn for 7 DME to about a heading of a 3-3. Well, let's make it about 290. Again, this is like Kentucky windage. We're just taking some shots at this and getting us in the ballpark, and then we'll fine tune from that. We're probably, with that crosswind coming from our left, we're going to be blown outside of the 7 DME. So instead of a 280 Kentucky windage, I'm going to fly a heading of about 250 to get me back to my 7 DME. Trying to get back up to altitude. Here comes 2660. I think we'll run around 250. It's going to give us a quartering headwind. There's 250. I'm going to get a little more power to help us get back to altitude and mountainous terrain. So again, the whole idea, once we get onto our 7 DME, we want to remember with the RMI, let's take a look at that. That is actually in front of the nose, so we've got too much of an angle in there. We'll take some of that angle out, and we want to get that pointer out here to the left-hand side of the wing so that we're doing a constant radius around it. So no longer are we looking for a specific radial. We're looking to get this pointer on the left side or the right side, depending on the direction of the arc. 7.2, we're pretty close. I'm going to take more of that correction out, which is going to bring this pointer, we're going to push it down to the left wing. We're going to get back up to altitude, get my act together, and roll there. 7.2, looking pretty good. Take a note of your heading. 285, right there it is. Looking to get back to altitude. The RMI indicator is on the left-hand side of the wing. We do have a right crosswind. So at that point, I know I'm probably going to need that. So I'm going to take, I am not doing the turn 10 or the twist 10, turn 10 thing. I'm putting my wind correction angle in here as we go. And if I can get that to hang in there, 7.3 to 7 DME, I'll be doing pretty good. I want a shallow angle of bank. And since we have approximately 20 degrees, 30 degrees now, we should see that 30-degree difference there because we're crabbed into the wind. Kind of have to visualize the station is to my right. On the left-hand side, I have a crosswind, a quartering crosswind, headwinds. That means I'm going to be turned more into the wind so that I don't get blown outside my arc or blown on the inside of the arc. You see 43 knots again, here we are, you know, I have about a 20-25 degree correction angle, so there it is, 10, 20, yeah, we're about 25 degrees. We're 7 DME arc. I'm going to take some of that correction out. So now, if we're looking approximately 270 on our heading, we are at 7 DME. Taking some of that correction out will bring that pointer more closer to the left-hand side of the wing. We still have about a 15-degree wind correction in there. We're still at DME. Now there's one other thing we have to start paying attention to. We don't want to get locked into flying the DME. I'd like to get locked into my altitude. I'm just going to I'm showing 7 DME. What's the inbound course? Let's take a look at that. Inbound course is 127. So let's take note of that. We're not doing this procedure turn. I may do that in another video, but right now we're doing this DME, 7 DME arc. Let's see which radial we're on. If I look at my pointer down here, we're showing just approximately 360. That means we're north of the station at 7 DME. We're locked in on this sucker. I'm surprised I'm doing so well. Buy me a coffee. I usually drink 3 in the morning. So the bearing from the station is 010. We've flown a little further. Well, right here. I'm sorry. As we go in, somewhere in here. So this is going to be the 307 bearing from the station using the RMI. So we'll be looking for the pointer to drop on 307. That's when we turn left inbound to 127. And let's go ahead now. So we'll be looking at 127. Remind me we got to do the 5 T's, and remind me we got to turn left to 098. Call it 100 degrees. Okay, 285. Pointer still on the left. We're 6.8. Probably take out some of that correction. And now we're a little high. I'd rather be higher out here than lower. It just said no lower. Nobody assigned us an altitude, remember? We are with approach control. I should switch over. Let's let them know we're with them. There we go. 135, 175.
Weather observation.
Oh, that's AWA, sorry.
Light and variable. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions broken at 5,000. Scattered at 6,800. Temperature 8.
Should be on calm 2.
Altimeter 2,993.
Yeah, we're on calm 2 now. Descending down to flight level 10200. CDI's to the left. We got a direct headwind. Taking some power out. Inbound course. I already forgot. 127? 307 outbound, so yeah, 127. We're a little on the inside of the course now. I'm going to take some of that correction out. If I were hooked up on the GPS, that thing would fly we would fly a perfect arc around here. It would really make you feel like somebody. But of course we know you already are somebody. We're doing good. This is great practice for your instrument scan. Airspeed control, airplane's trimmed for approximately 100 knots. Altitude control, well, you know, if you're a little high, take power out. If you're a little low, put power in. Scan your altitudes. Check your course. We're not using the VOR at this point, but we are on the, now we are, what, about 330, becoming northwest of the station, getting closer to the inbound course of 127. Turn, time, twist, throttle, talk. I'm going to go ahead and twist my CDI course inbound to 127. Going through altitude, power comes back in. 6.8 DME. I try to keep my videos under 1 hour. I haven't had much luck. So let's see, we've got everything set. We're on approach control. We are 6.9 nautical miles. The VOR, using the RMI blue indicator from nav number 2, is to the left of us. We are making a left arc. There you go, you can see it. We are right there. So we're coming into 037. There's 127 coming in. We're a little bit low, but that's okay. We are now going to, we're about a 130, a few degrees off, so let's turn left now. Start our left turn coming into 127, even though we're a little bit low. CDI is still to the left of us. We are doing a 7 DME arc. .307, 127. Looking pretty good. Let's start that left turn inbound. And what did we say we could do here? From 10,002 we can come down to 8,200. Okay, 8,200 it is. The winds are now pushing us. I'm going to use a half standard rate turn. I'm having a right crosswind at 41 knots up here. Going inbound at 127. We can come down to 8,200. I mean, if I wanted to, I could hit my autopilot, hit vertical speed, nose down, about 400, 500 foot rate of descent, and put that into my altitude here via the altitude control over here. We are flying it. I'm going to get rid of the, let's see, let me get rid of this. And I'm going to just move the CDI off the way. Let's get to 127 and see where we are on the RMI. Oops. I'm going to take power out. We're going down to 8,200 now, inbound to the VOR. Let's go to 127. There it is. My CDI is approximately 13 degrees to the right. I'm going to do a right turn, 13, let's call it 25 degrees. So 127, 137, 147, 150. I'm going to go to 160. That's going to give me a 30-degree intercept down to 8,200. 3.9 miles till we get to the station. There's 157. That's 30 degrees. So guess what? I'm waiting for this indicator to be reach 30 degrees to my left. 127, 137, 147, 157, that's 30 degrees. And as we cross, we had sunset coming in. As we cross the bearing to the station, but we haven't about a 40 knot crosswind here either. So let's go a little bit more. Let's make it 40 degrees. 167. Okay, 127, 37, 47, 57. 67 will be 40 degrees. So when the indicator is 40 degrees to the left of us, let's check it out. 167, 157, 147, 137. Well, we have about 10 more degrees to go. We're going to hold on to this heading. Thousand feet to go. I just changed it to 8,200. 167. Let's call it 170 to 130. That's 30 degrees plus the other two. 10, 20, 30, almost there. So we get that 33 degrees difference. And we're going to start turning inbound now to see where we're at, because that's a pretty big correction. And the whole idea, when we roll out on 127, if the pointer is directly on the nose in a no-wind situation, that means we are on that bearing to the station at this point, since we haven't crossed over. I hope this is making sense. It's like Kentucky windage. Instead of doing all the maths, just get it in the ballpark and then fine-tune it. 8,700 for 82. 139. We are very close to the station, so a lot of these things, the needle's probably going to start swinging. 8,600 for 82. Waiting for the needle to switch around. It's starting to go. You know what? With that crosswind pushing me out, turn. Yes, let's turn. Inbound 098. We can continue our descent. We're pretty busy. We're going to come back to the descent. So 098. I'm just going to get the initial heading first. Kind of run that heading out, let the CDI swing over. We're probably a little bit left of course, that's why it hence the slow swing. Okay, 200 to go. I'm going to in little mixtures. RMI. Course is to our right. So at that point, I'm just going to swing in. Just a 20-degree correction from 0. Let's call it 100 instead of 098. Okay, there's 110. And let's go to 120. Okay, 120 is our correction heading. Maybe you want to go to 130 because the winds are at 240. So let's go to 130. And you have to visualize the station's behind us. It's off to our right a little bit. Is it? Might have to turn around. And I got a 30-degree correction in there from 100. So 10, 20, 30 with the wind correction angle. Let's go ahead and test this out. Left turn, back to our inbound course of 098. Let's see what happens to the tail of the needle and the head of the needle. Turn, time, twist, throttle, talk, approach. We are inbound. So currently now we are approximately about 5 degrees off of our heading. But you know what? That wind is going to push us in there a little bit more. Well, I'm going to put in a wind correction angle of about 110. Let's see exactly where we're at on the CDI, okay? The inbound course is 098. Let me put that in there. 098, and let's put the VOR frequency back in. And it shows we are, like I said, a little bit Yep, course is a little bit to the right still. That's not too bad. Well, let's see what happens now. There's our course correction. 109 seems to keeping us on, so about 10 degrees. Let's go to 120. What's our minimum altitude? 7,200. Coming up on it. We're still 5 miles out. I'm going to hold 7,300. Power's going to come back in. So we have 120 in there. Again, we're looking at a correction. Let me go ahead and remove the VOR. We were just using that to double check ourselves. And you know our blue CDI, that's approximately, so if we're looking at 120, that's 20 degrees. 22 degrees, 10, 20, 22 degrees, about 1 degree off. So if I were to turn outbound to the inbound course, let's see what we get now. 7,300. What did I say, 9.8? I went overshot a little bit. There you go. We just got our correction. Look at the pointer is directly behind us. We are on 098. We are exactly on course. That's how you use the RMI. And then where are we going to come in at on the airport? Right on an angle there. We can come down to 72. I'm calling it 7,200. 7,340. I'm going to put AWAS in there. Let's go to COM 1.
Automated weather observation. Bert Mooney. Wind, light, and variable. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions overcast at 5,500. Temperature 7. Dew point -3. Altimeter 2,992.
2,992. Let's go ahead and fix that. Okay, there's 7280. I have the airport in sight. I didn't even see that to now. So there you go.
Automated weather observation. Bert Mooney. Wind, light, and variable. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions overcast at 5,500. Temperature 7. Dew point -3. Altimeter 2,992.
2,992. Back to common traffic advisory frequency. And there we are. We're going to go ahead and use, let's land on runway 33. We are entering a 45 now for runway 33. Traffic pattern altitude is approximately, what is this airport, 5,500 feet? 65. So that put about 69, yeah, somewhere in there. And we have a crosswind. Ooh, is that the sun over there? Let's check out the sun. Ooh, beautiful. And as you can see in the mirror over here, give you a view. There's the airport. And Creative Cloud. I just got an update from Creative Cloud. That's cool. There we are, beam our touchdown point. I'm gonna get rid of this. Move things over a little bit. Okay, gas is on, fuel pump's on. Mixture I'm gonna leave right where it's at. A little further up there. Landing lights are on. Beam the touchdown point. Let's get power down. We got a bit of a crosswind pushing us, but it's only 5 knots now. And a little slower for flap speed. I just like making it big like that. Flap speed's coming up. There's the white arc. Well, we'll hold the flaps, but I'm going to do my left turn. I don't want to get too close to the mountain. So this must be why it's a challenging airport. Looking for about 80 knots on base. Trying to control my rate of descent back to about 400 feet here. 330 is coming up on my left wing. Power's coming in. See if I can see the runway over here on the left-hand side. I can. We get some flaps in here. And traffic, Cessna 172 is turning. Left base now for runway 33. 20 degrees flaps. A little bit of a crosswind, turning into a headwind. I'm holding 30 degrees flaps at this point. We're going to be at 20. But we have a little bit of a crab in there. Runway is made. Red over white, we're all right. It's the old saying, red over red, you're dead. Well, hopefully this is going to be a landing, a good landing, turning into an outstanding landing, meaning we can use this airplane again tomorrow. From the famous Chuck Yeager. There's another update. We're just going to hold the flaps at 20. Aerodynamic braking. That's about it. Well, I'm going to pull off the taxiway and bring it to a stop. Looks like we're at about 1 hour and 20 minutes once again. Welcome to Butte, Montana. That was a VOR Alpha using an RMI for tracking outbound and inbound bearings from the station and bearings to the station. And I used the VOR in nav number 1 to back up the indications on the RMI indicator, just for a visual reference, just to give me an idea, especially if you're learning how to do the RMI. Take the time to understand, split the difference. If you don't know if you're on the bearing or off the bearing, turn to the outbound course. If your outbound course is 100, turn to 100. Note the deflection on the needle. It's pointing 10 degrees to the left. Oh, okay. Well, if you turn 10 degrees to the left, really all you're doing is paralleling the course. So you would parallel that course if you did nothing else. So if you want to intercept, just add another 10 degrees to that, and that will pull the needle or push the needle to 20 degrees left or right of the nose of the airplane or the tail, depends on what you're looking at. And when you have that amount of deflection, that means you're on course. Then you have to take the winds into consideration, and if you need 10 degrees to crab into the wind, you should note that 10 degrees on your RIM indicator, 10 degrees in the opposite direction. And remember, if you always keep the pointer on the nose, well, there's never been parking in the red zone. That eventually, if you have enough time, if you keep correcting to keep the needle on the nose of your airplane on the heading indicator, you will eventually be flying directly into a headwind. Once you gather that up into your brain and you kind of just make references to headings and work with those numbers, it really, really becomes easy. Easier said than done. That's like I say, if you don't know where you're at and you have a heading that you need to be following, a route in the sky, just turn to that heading. If the pointer's not on the heading with you, that means you're not on that radial or that bearing. Just like a CDI on a VOR, if you center it up with a from indication or a to indication, and you notice that it's 3 dots or 4 dots to the right, well, you've got to turn, maybe 30 degrees to the right to intercept that. And then as you're flying, the CDI gets drug into the middle of the VOR from that. And then once it's on the center, now you're going to turn to a heading that corresponds to what you have set in the OBS. And then if you don't make any kind of course correction with the winds, the same thing's going to happen again. So just like flying a VOR, it's all the same thing, but just represented and shown on your instrument panel in a different way. Again, this is very basic instrument attitude flying. Basic instrument flying, the 6-pack, VORs, DME, and it really has a lot to do with situational awareness. If you could find yourself on the chart and you're not overwhelmed by the airplane, you may be in the clouds, you may be on top of the clouds, you may ask yourself why, and when the day's gone by, you'll figure it out. So once again, leave a question, leave a comment in my comment section. Let me know how I'm doing. I'm a little bit long-winded, but the older you get, the more words you have, I guess. So if all that makes sense to you, if I'm overboard or talking too much, let me know. I don't care. I got pretty thick skin. I do thank my subscribers and any new viewers here. Feel free to subscribe, ring the bell, hit the all button in that subscription thing, and give me a thumbs up. And once we get things going here, I have a lot more I'd like to share with private pilots, instrument-rated pilots, commercial pilots. I'm not giving you the classroom technical jargon. That's very, very important. There's a lot of great YouTubers out there that are giving a lot of great information, classroom techniques on how to fly the plane and how to fly the instruments, and I'm very aware of all of that. This is it. If you're still with me, again, show me by subscribing. I'd like to really build the simulator into something that's very notable, increase its functions, kind of give content out to those who are willing to listen to me and enjoy it. This is number 1 on the most difficult airports to land at. That one didn't seem too difficult. Stay tuned for number 2 airport. It may be a night flight into a city. I have a feeling I'll be looking at Washington, D.C., maybe Ronald Reagan International. It'll have a sidestep procedure in there. So anyway, good evening and greetings. Good morning, good afternoon from FlightQuest. Have a great day. Lots of mountains. Whew.